guys, welcome to the horror show. I'm Susie Von Slaughter.
And I'm Cecil Laird, and we are here to review the movie Ouija, directed by McGee and Styles White, and starring Olivia Cooke and Darren Kagasoff. And Susie, why don't you let everyone know what this little ditty was about?
Okay, so it starts out with this girl. She goes to visit her friend, and for some reason her friend is being very hermit-like. She's not answering phone calls. She's staying in. And, she doesn't really explain why, or she doesn't understand why. And she's just like, oh, well, I'll come meet up with you for breakfast the next morning. She's like, are you sure we'll just come out now? And she's like, no, I'll just meet you next morning. So what happens, the girl goes back in her house and she kills herself. She hangs herself in the house. And, you just think, oh, she's super depressed, poor thing, whatever. And, the next day at breakfast, the girl, she gets the phone call from her dad, you need to come home now. So she does, and then that's when she finds out that her friend had killed herself. And again, she's like, oh my gosh, I just spoke to her. Why would she do such a thing? I guess I would explain why she was so depressed, whatever.
Distant,
yeah, they explain why she's so distant and everything. So then they go to have her funeral. They go to her funeral, then they go to the wake, and the boyfriend shows up, and their very close friends show up, and eventually they want to know why. They want to know what happened, and they find a Ouija board. She goes into a room and she finds a Ouija board in her room. And so she decides, wouldn't it be a good idea to try and contact her to find out what happened? Like, why would she do that to herself? So they do that. All the friends and the boyfriend and the girl, they come later on that night. And they do, they try to speak to her through the Ouija board. And they get a response. And it acknowledges that it is her. And, they're trying to ask why and what happened. And it doesn't say, it doesn't give a straight answer as to why. Strange things start to happen, and so they go back. They start seeing high friends everywhere. So they think, oh my gosh, she's trying to contact us, and so then they go back and try to talk to her again. But then this time, it's something else that we are going to tell you maybe in the spoiler.
Yeah. It turns out it's not.
It's not
the friend after all, and things start to spin more and more out of control from that point forward.
Right.
And again, we can't spoil it. We're going to do our spoiler review, so check that out if you want to, you guys, or you should anyway, even if you don't want to, because it's going to be fun. So, yeah. But now, what did you think of the story as a whole? Because this movie caught a lot of flack, and it's got like a 7% rating on Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, and so, but that's the critics' thing. It's slightly higher for people, but
I'm going to be honest. Now, honestly, I mean, coming from one of these, I've got some experience with it. I think it did a fair job at, keeping entertained, but in the end, I think it was kind of a letdown.
Yeah, it didn't really accomplish much by way of scares or interest in the story.
Right,
it was a paint by numbers movie.
Exactly.
If you guys watch PG-13 horror movies nowadays, that's sort of what we're getting a lot of. Sometimes they end up being okay, but a lot of them are just these sort of copy and paste characters.
Right.
A close friend of theirs dies, and then they have to get together, and what happens. And I mean, Unfriended came out recently, and that had sort of a similar thing. A friend died, and they were all gathered on the Skype to talk about it, or just to hang out or whatever, and then they have to face the friend. It's just a trope that's being used a lot. And when you're working with just sort of an okay story, when you don't have gore to bolster it, then the movie ends up being lackluster for horror fans.
Yeah, it was, again, I thought that the ending it ended kind of abrupt, and it's just like, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a little strange. And then the weird effects, even the modus operandi of the Ouija board itself was indescript. Like, their eyes would glass over white.
Don't tell them.
You
have to watch the spoiler.
That's true.
You have to watch the spoiler.
But it wasn't anything super interesting, but it was still, I don't know.
If you're cleaning your house and you want something on that TV to kind of glance at, this would be it.
That's a good one. That's a good way to put it. And I mean, to that end, I will say that the cinematography was good.
Mm-hmm.
It worked out pretty well the way they set it up. The production design was good. I mean, there was nothing bad about either of those things. It was perfectly serviceable. You know, it didn't really stand out necessarily as anything super new, but it was at least interesting to watch in that sense.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like, oh God, what are they doing? You know, like, even though the story wasn't that interesting, the angles they were using to tell it were somewhat interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So, what about the effects themselves, though, Susie?
The effects I thought were good.
Mm-hmm.
Some, like you were trying to kind of go into, kind of, again, didn't make sense, but they were done well.
Mm-hmm.
At least, you know, at least you have that. They obviously had money to put into this.
It doesn't make sense what they did, but they did it well.
It was done well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a very good way to put it. So, you know what? That's probably a good place to cut the non-spoiler review. You guys check out the spoiler if you want to see us talk about the other stuff. But that was Ouija. Check it out if you want to watch sort of a paint-by-numbers thing. I mean, it's the best Ouija board movie that's come out in the past decade because I think it's the only one. So, you know, there's that. If you want to watch a Ouija board movie, they've already approved a sequel. So it's going into production. I mean, it's probably just for a younger crowd that hasn't seen as many of these as us, and so they're not sick of it yet.
Veterans,
Exactly. We're gonna go ahead and give them that pass.
All right. All right.
But thanks for watching, you guys. Make sure you check us out on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at the Horror Show Channel stuff.
And also head over to our website at www.thehorrorshowchannel.com.
Mm-hmm. And in the comments below, you guys, why don't you let us know what your favorite appearance of a Ouija board is in a movie? I know it showed up in a Paranormal Activity movie. There were the older witch board movies from the late 80s. So why don't you let us know which one of those you might like? Mm-hmm. All right?
Okay.
Thanks for watching, you guys. And remember, stay scared.